Hi everyone, it's Nicole Wilkins with FitnessRx for Women, and this is my next question and answer segment where I took your questions from Facebook and I'm going to answer them for you today. The first question I have is, what are your thoughts on eating before bed if that meal is also a post-workout meal? I cannot fit in my training until late in the evening, and then I eat a light dinner about 30 minutes before hitting the sack. I know I'm supposed to refuel after workout, but I'm concerned this might be working against my goal of leaning out. Are there certain macros I should or shouldn't avoid? Yeah, I would definitely eat post-workout regardless of what time it is at night. I sometimes don't eat my last meal until 10 o'clock at night. And because it's post-workout, don't be afraid to have carbohydrates because you need to refuel the glycogen that you burnt off when you were training. So yeah, don't be afraid to have carbs post-workout. It's going to be utilized right away. Wouldn't have another meal after that if it's already 9 or 10 o'clock at night when you get home. That would just be it. So your post-workout meal would be your last meal. So yeah, don't be afraid about eating late. If you didn't work out, then I would probably just keep it to protein, veggies, and maybe some fats to help slow the digestion down of the protein while you're sleeping. Nicole, how do you feel about fasted cardio? I actually do fasted cardio pretty much every day. I mean, I get up and I just roll out of bed and I go running. I don't like to run in the morning on a full stomach because then I have to go to the bathroom halfway through my run, but also it like sloshes around in my stomach. So look, I mean, there are some people who get up and have absolutely zero energy. They're walking zombies when they're doing cardio and they get lightheaded. If someone has that experience, then I would have a protein shake and then do cardio, or do it later in the afternoon when you have a few meals in you and you can push harder. For someone like myself who doesn't have a problem with it, can you burn a little bit more body fat? Yeah, probably about 5 to 10% more body fat, but you can still see results even if you don't do fasted cardio. Can you explain the difference between HIIT training versus cardio and which is better? Well, HIIT training is cardio. So cardio is anything that gets your heart rate elevated for a longer duration of time. There's anaerobic and aerobic. And aerobic is usually 2 minutes or more of inactivity without stopping. So the difference between regular steady state cardio, interval training, and high intensity interval training, or HIIT, is steady state is like if you're on the treadmill and you just put 6.0 speed and then you just run. That's steady state. The speed doesn't change, the resistance doesn't change, the intensity doesn't change, it's just straight. Interval is, let's say you're on the step mill and you go level 4 for a minute, level 6 for a minute, level 8 for a minute, level 10 for a minute, level 8, level 6, level 4, and you keep going like that. That's interval training. That's a great way to break up the time, make it go by faster, but that's not high intensity interval training or HIIT. When you do HIIT training, if you're doing it right, when you do that high interval, it cannot last any longer than 30 seconds to a minute maximum. And at the end of that time frame, you are completely spent. Like, you have to stop because it's so intense. And then you recover for about a minute or two, and then you repeat another high intense interval. Now, most people don't do HIIT correctly. If you're doing HIIT correctly, you can only go for about 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And it can be difficult to do on a machine. It's really great to go outside and do HIIT. If you're doing it on the bike, it's easier than it is on the treadmill sometimes. But HIIT is like balls to the wall as hard as you can. And I wouldn't recommend doing that all the time because it takes so much out of you. So I'd recommend a mix of all three. I mean, interval training is, like I said, a great way to break up the time. And HIIT is a great way to burn a lot of calories in a short period of time. So the next question is cardio before or after weights. And I've answered this a million times. I prefer to do cardio after weights because you want to use your energy for the weights. So don't burn it up before you hit the weights, right? And the last question I have is, what body fat percent is healthy year-round and still see some definition? I've heard that some of the women competitors have 5% body fat when they compete. Okay, an average body fat for a woman in the US is 25%. And an average for a female athlete is around 16 to 18%. I think that's a really good percentage to be able to maintain and still have your body function normally. Most competitors, depending on which division, if you are a bikini competitor, it's usually around 10 to 12. I would say probably more 11 to 12%. If you're a figure competitor, maybe 9 to 10%. And bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders, and sometimes some of those women do get like 5-6%, but it's not really healthy to stay at for a long time. You lose your cycle, and it's just not normal for a female to have that body fat percentage. So I would say a good goal would be about 16 to 18%. That's something that's maintainable. You can still see definition. You still like you're in great shape. You have good energy, yeah. But everybody's different, so I wouldn't get too hung up on that number. Go more by how you're looking in the mirror, how your clothes are fitting, how you're feeling, how your strength is in the gym. All those things matter a whole lot more than what that body fat percentage is, because that's going to change quite often. Most skin fold measurements have a 2 to 5% error, whether you've eaten before, or you drank before, or you're sore, or you did it later in the day, or you had a different person do it, or they didn't do it correctly. There's so many factors that play a role into that number. So, just take it as take note of the number and don't get so hung up on that. So those are my questions for this week. Until next week, keep asking your questions on the FitnessRx for Women Facebook page, and I'll be back here every Friday to answer them for you. Until then, keep living the fit life.